This episode is brought to you by Mint Mobile. Breaking up with your big wireless provider has never been easier thanks to Mint Mobile. For a limited time, wireless plans from Mint Mobile are just $15 a month. That's unlimited talk, text, and data for just $15 a month. Order today at mintmobile.com/TFS. Hello and welcome to Talk from Superheroes. Hey everybody, I'm Andrew Ivamy.
And me, I'm Diana McCullum.
And you're listening to Talk from Superheroes, where every week we discuss a piece of heroic TV or film. And this week on the podcast, we are continuing the theme that started with Gran Turismo.
Continued into The Wizard, and now in our third week of movies about video games.
Yes, about people playing video games.
And
playing them quite well.
Yes, no losers.
No stickers in the bunch.
Nobody who's like, shit. What's X do?
That would also be a wild movie. Someone who's just really bad at video games.
My autobiography film? The
yes.
Diana McCullum tale? It's me being like, what's X do?
I mean, you were fine at video games until they introduced that second analog stick.
Yeah. Once you had to look around.
Yeah.
Like when we play like Mario Party and it's still just 2D, I'm like, I got this.
You got that.
I got that.
You got that. So it's the second analog stick that's throwing you all off. But talking about video game movies where they play video games, this week we are talking about Ready Player One.
And this week we talk about heroic TV and film, and I think we're the heroes for finishing this film.
We're the heroes on this one.
You're welcome, folks.
You're welcome, Planet Earth. We did it.
Planet Earth, we helped. We survived.
Yeah, if the world doesn't get measurably better over the next week, I don't know what's going to fix this planet. Because we did this.
We did a heroic feat. A Herculean feat, I would say.
Yeah.
It wasn't easy.
So we're quite impressive. We've watched Ready Player One.
We're just going to throw out there that
we're just going to throw it out there that we're very impressive.
We know you're all impressed. Restrain yourselves.
And as well, before we get into the body of the episode, if you do want to hear us talk about another movie where they play video games, we did Tron for this month on the Patreon exclusive. So if you want to hear us talk about the original Tron, 1982? I want to say 82.
It was 82. Yes, The Wizard was 89, which was Beau Bridges, and Tron was 82, which was Jeff Bridges. So the Bridges verse.
The Bridges, if we want to talk about the video game.
As we talk about it.
The video game Bridges verse. We're talking about 1982's Tron on the Patreon exclusive episode. Every month we release an exclusive episode over there. Head over to patreon.com/fromsuperheroes. That's patreon.com/fromsuperheroes. Have a look at that if you want a little bit of more action. But I'd say let's just get into the episode. How do you feel about that?
I'm Ready Player 2.
Let's get Ready Player 2. Let's talk about Ready Player 1. All right, we have seen Ready Player One, a film that neither of us saw in theaters or on its original release. And we watched it for the first time this week for the podcast.
Sure did.
Let's start with the simple question. I feel like we're already getting vibes, but Diana, did you like it?
No, it's so bad. This movie, I don't usually say this emphatically. This movie sucks. It just sucks. It's no fun to watch. It's no fun to think about. It's no fun to experience. The performances are bad. The writing is bad. Actually, all the performances aren't bad. Ben Mendelsohn, shout out to you. You're doing everything you can. I'm going to give it to that guy. But yeah, it's just, I guess technically it's probably really impressive, but also it isn't at the same time. It's like, ooh, look at this long one shot in the video game Oasis. And I'm like, I'm sure that was really hard, but also it doesn't look that good. At least not here at home. It doesn't. Like, I've seen video games. That's what they look like. Yeah, there's just, the story is nothing. It contradicts itself. It's not interesting. There's no stakes. It's boring as all hell. I hated this movie. I don't know. I thought Tenet was the worst thing that's ever happened to me, and I don't know if this is worse. It's a real toss-up between this one and Tenet. So that's me on Ready Player One. Andrew, did you like Ready Player One?
This movie is piss.
Oh, you rarely say it, but you mean it when you do.
It's piss. Like, frankly, the movie is fascinating to see how a bunch of people who are better than this somehow lowered themselves to this. Like, it is, you watch this movie and at no point are you like, yes, the director of Jurassic Park and Saving Private Ryan. There is such a lack of enthusiasm or care or pacing. It is not even like when we made fun of Tenet, when we talk about something like Tenet is like offensive in its like, it has made big, bold, terrible decisions, but it has made decisions.
Made big swings.
This, it's hard. It's like, it almost feels like they set out to take the smallest swings possible. It's a bunt of a movie. It is truly everyone in every department going out of their way to make the blandest and most mediocre thing humanly imaginable. It is wild to watch this movie wash over me. It is hard to stay awake. It is boring. It's piss.
Yeah, we had to take about 3 breaks, 3 pauses to get snacks and just kind of like throw cold water on our face. We were that bored. Yeah, what you just said is interesting to me. I feel like Spielberg kind of takes that like James Cameron route of with the Avatar movies of like nothing that will offend anyone.
Yeah.
Literally no themes, no problems. It's
Yeah, this felt like a cross between Avatar and Alita Battle Angel, 2 James Cameron movies. Like, yeah, it feels like a James Cameron movie.
Yeah, it does, and that sounds like a compliment.
Right.
It's absolutely not. Although, like, Steven Spielberg shouldn't have to feel like a James Cameron movie. He's Steven Spielberg.
Yes.
And, like, you're so right about how, like, what's happening, because Spielberg only makes a movie every, like, 3 or 4 years. It's like, it's an event. It's like, oh, it's going to win Oscars. It's going to have acting buzz. It's going to be incredible. And then you're just like, what was this?
Yeah.
What was this? Was this your attempt to jump on a hype train for once and just not have it work out? Although Jurassic Park was a book first, and you nailed that.
Yeah. Yeah, and, like, Spielberg does, like, sneak out a few stinkers every now and then, but this is bananas.
This is awful.
This is truly, I'm going to say, one of the worst adaptations I've ever seen.
Yes, because we haven't brought this up. Andrew read the book and likes it, so we're not fully just like don't like Ready Player One.
I'm a defender of it because I do think that, like, to do it. May we take a quick sidestep over to book world and then move on completely past it?
I love books. Go right ahead, sir.
We're not that podcast that does the deep dive analysis comparing something to the comic books or the book or the source material. We're more just like, let's take it as it is. But this is fascinating because it's a miserable adaptation. Because the book, I feel like, did reach a point of critical mass where it got very maligned and made fun of. It was very popular to make fun of. The book kind of became this, like, it was something that should just have been stupid fun, and it made too much money and too many people read it, and it became this, like, fun thing to dunk on.
Oh, yeah,
Like, it became an Adam Sandler movie where, like, it's a thing that everyone really liked until too many people liked it, and then everyone was really mad at its existence for some reason.
It's like a pop star.
Yeah.
Like, people like a pop star until they become billionaires, and they're like, fuck One Direction. Those guys suck. It's like, those are bangers.
Like, just, like, let it go. Like, so I think it just reached a point of critical mass where it's like, people were like, it doesn't deserve this amount of tension. And frankly, it doesn't, but it was dumb fun for what it was.
It was harmless fun.
It was harmless fun, and there are moments of the book where it is accidentally. I do not think that the writer is necessarily as good as I enjoyed the book. It's one of those pieces that, like, it's accidentally smarter than it means to be, and just by chance comes across themes that are more important and powerful, where, like, it has that obsession with pop culture that you see in this movie in a slightly different way, but it's there. There's a lot of references to, like, massive media from the 80s, and, like, let's talk about, like, you know, the Hughes films. Let's talk about Gundams and that type of a thing. There's a lot of that. But the book also has a lot of the world is terrible. The world's truly miserable. VR has ruined us. There are people where it's like school takes place in VR because the first thing that the public stopped funding was physical schools. And now there's a ratio of 1 to 50,000 teacher to students because they can cram them all in a digital space. And people live in trailers stacked on top of one another. And like people are sick and just overweight and dying, and companies own you, and education sucks. And the world is bleak because everyone has moved over to a fantasy existence. And there's this real, like, there's a grit sometimes in the book that is surrounded by this like pop culture fascination and obsession. And the movie was like, yes, that's it. Pop culture fascination and obsession, and took none of the themes accidentally or intentionally. Like, this movie has really distilled all of the worst qualities of the book and saved none, literally zero of the redeeming qualities of the book.
Yeah.
And that will be it for my little book segment.
No, it's totally fair. Because, yeah, whoever, I don't remember which studio made this. This is Warner
I think
Brothers?
Universal. But yeah.
Whatever they own. I don't know who owns what. Must be Warner Brothers. Batman's here.
Yeah.
But yeah, whoever made this, like, clearly just saw a book that got popular with a bunch of pop culture references and was like, we're going to make $1 billion. We're going to put all these pop culture references together in one movie, and everyone's going to fucking love it because we're going to say Millennium Falcon, and they're going to cream their jeans, and it's going to fucking blow up. And like, we don't care about a reference to the Millennium Falcon. But also they've totally subverted what you said about how, like, I just haven't read the book, but I assume using VR is kind of supposed to be like the people in the movie WALL-E. Like, they're stuck in their chairs and they're overweight and nothing happens. But in this movie, you're in like a rig, and like everyone's like pole dancing like a stripper, and they're running like the dean in Community in the episode where he gets the VR like treadmill, and they're all in shape and they know martial arts because they have to like physically run around in the game. And I'm like, that's not how anyone plays video games. There is a small subset of people who use VR to work out. I have done it. And you can do it for like half an hour, but then you get tired and you sit there and play a regular game with a controller.
Yes. Fully agree. The book is very much like, it's these people should, in the novelization, the book is very much like these people are closer to the film WALL-E, where it's like these people are struggling. I remember at one point, I think like the lead character is talking to his mom and is like, please remember to take breaks, to drink water and take your medicine because you're sick. This is actively like ruining your health. Every moment of your life is misery because of this thing. But every shot is people who are jacked, getting ready for the Olympics. At one point, they're like, someone's surfing in VR. And I'm like, okay, what's that like? And it cuts to a dude outside on a makeshift surfboard in a deep squat. And I'm like, so that dude's just in a deep squat for several hours a day? His legs are fire. Like, he must be an Olympic level athlete to be in a deep squat all day because he likes VR surfing. And yeah, like the kids, to do martial arts in a video game, you have to actually learn it because the movement is 1-to-1 of your actual real life movement. So everyone is only as fast or as good at any physical activity as they are in real life. And thankfully, everyone is a really good looking Hollywood actor who is in terrific and perfect shape.
Yeah, and it doesn't do anything for like the movie is like VR is ruining us, and I'm like, everyone is so healthy. Literally everyone in this movie is in top physical shape. They're hanging out with people online. They're active. I'm like, I feel like VR is genuinely saving this society, actually. Like, I feel like if any other video game was popular, they would be the people from WALL-E in the chairs. But VR in this case is being portrayed as like, oh, it's the active video game. The guy who made this is a hero. He's keeping us all physically alive and like involved with each other.
Right. Whereas like, it feels like almost what they're doing with VR in this, it feels closer to Demolition Man, where it's a sterile world where everyone is the perfect version of themselves without accepting any of their imperfection. Like, no one's willing to get grimy. Like, it's like, we're not having real sex. We're having VR sex. It's Demolition Man. Whereas the reality is supposed to be like a bunch of people who are now socially introverted, who are not comfortable in their own bodies because they sit in a chair all day long and are covered in bed sores and don't know how to meet real human people or have a genuine sexual interaction, need this because it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. But yeah, it's just so blandly sterile.
Yeah.
Blandly sterile.
Yeah. So instead of like that interesting aspect of people who can only connect through video games and have like given up on their physical bodies, in this movie you have like two attractive young people and one girl thinks she's a monster because her birthmark's kind of big. And I am just furious. Like, you're one of the most beautiful women I've ever seen. You have a birthmark over one eye. It looks absolutely fine. You still look great. If it did bother you that much, that to the point where in a video game you're like, you don't know me. You don't know what I look like. I'm hideous. I'm like, you're not. But also, like, I think like a thin layer of foundation.
Yeah.
The thinnest layer. It's not that dark a birthmark. It wouldn't take much to cover this up if you so needed, girl.
And also, I'm going to say this. Their avatars are far more hideous than they are in real life.
You're so much more beautiful than your avatar, girl.
These avatars they've chosen look like shit. They look like garbage. They're awful to look at. There's no emotion or connection. They all have that Alita Battle Angel anime eye. It sucks. It sucks. It truly sucks to look at these characters exist.
And like, we don't think they're supposed to look real. They're computer avatars, but they're not nice to look at. You could have made them look like literally anything. And instead they look like slimy. Like, their skin is gross to look at, like both of them in different ways. Like Parzival, the main guy, I don't know your real name, Wade.
Yeah.
Like, you're just like, you've got this like weird translucent slimy skin that I don't like looking at. You didn't even make yourself all that attractive.
Artemis looks spiky to touch. Like, they just look shitty.
I mean, her personality is also spiky.
Oh, so deep. So
and her
deep.
face is red because she has a birthmark.
Yeah, and so sure. So there's that. Miserable.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's so like it gets all the themes wrong. And like to jump to the end, even though, because like the point of this movie seems to be, or at least the book, is like we've lost connection to real people. And that's what the maker of this game is saying at the end of this movie. Like, we need to connect with real people. You can't just play a video game. But I'm like, to learn that lesson, you have to play this video game so long and hard. Like, you have to devote your life to a video game. And then at the end, the guy you worship is like, you shouldn't just play video games, man. You should do other stuff. And you're like, I had to play this game for 5 years straight to learn this lesson?
Literally generations of people played video games until they fell into indentured servitude and were literally murdered by a cabal of international video game players. And the lesson of this was don't play it too much.
And here's another thing that's just bothering me. Just little things that bother me left and right about this movie. The fact that you can win single-handedly. Because it's a game where, like, he has to, like, eventually get a clan. But, like, you win alone. You get 3 keys by yourself and you open it up and you own the game. And it's like, if the whole point is supposed to be you have to make connections with people and friends, you should only be able to win this game if you have a clan.
Yeah. There's
so much missing theme-wise here.
There is no even attempt at a theme.
No.
And, like, this goes back to, like, not to belabor the point, but this goes back to the, like, actively avoiding any of the accidental themes of the book, because the book, it's just like it has moments of maybe not intended, because having read Ernest Cline's follow-up writing, I'm like, oh, you're actually not a good writer. But having read the book, I'm like, there's accident, and this goes out of its way to avoid all of that, to avoid anything even close to a message or a theme. Just bland nothingness.
Absolute, yeah. And like the first half is worse. I will say the second half of the movie I did find much more watchable once there was more real world stuff and actual stakes. I think once Artemis got put in jail and was in one of the loyalty centers, I was like, okay, this movie's kind of finding itself a little bit.
I agree with that.
We're actually trying to break her out of jail. The loyalty center seems terrifying, and it's a real physical thing that's happening. It's not just your avatar might get shot and you'll lose all your coins because who gives a shit, which is the first half of the movie, and it's so boring.
Very boring.
But yeah, I will give credit to the second half. It does start to pick up once you're like, get Artemis out of the thing. We're in a moving van, and there's people with guns chasing us. There is actual real world stuff happening in conjunction with the game, much better in the second half. It's still not really that great to watch.
No.
The first half is miserable, but the second half is a step up, and I will also say it's a step up because Ben Mendelsohn gets to do more in the second half. What a shining villain.
It goes back to the thing we always say, big, bombastic, theatrical actors know how to play comic book villains, and he plays it big and unabashed, and he got this script, and he was like, oh, it's an idiot character for idiots in an idiot movie. I'm going to play it like that. And he just plays
with
it.
With a lot of gravitas.
He turns the dial up to 20. Like, he is playing it big and bombastic and shitty. Like, he is playing
and
this.
Shitty, but like on purpose.
But
yeah, because he's a villain.
Like, he is playing this there's a moment where I'm like, he feels like if he survived the terrorist attack, the diehard coke dealer guy who tries to negotiate with Hans Gruber.
Okay, yeah.
You know, the dude who's been doing cocaine all Christmas party, and it's like, Hans, baby, I do deals all day long. Let me roll this out for you, and we're going to be great, Hans, baby. Hans, if that dude actually negotiated the deal and then became the president of the Nakatomi Corporation.
And maybe got over the coke, but
yes,
I can see it.
He's playing it at that fully dialed up, I am an 80s caricature type of a vibe.
Yeah, he is really good at just like slight manipulations. Like, I'm clearly lying. This is a movie for kids at its peak. Like, it feels kid-like. So he's like, oh, I'm a villain. I'm clearly lying right now. Like, I'm playing this up. I'm hamming this up. He's a delight to watch. He's having so much fun. I feel like he has just quietly been great in so many movies lately because he's great in this. He was forgettably great in Rogue One. Like, I feel like no one ever talks about what a good villain he was in Rogue One.
No one talks about Rogue One, but
it's fair.
you know,
I feel like we talked about it.
We talk about it a little bit. It gets better with every rewatch.
It does get better, guys. It gets better with every rewatch.
Yeah, nobody gave that movie enough love when it came out.
And he was also in Captain Marvel, and he was actually very, very good. He was one of the Skrulls, and I think he was in Secret Invasion, but we didn't watch that.
We didn't watch that. So.
Boo. So shout out to Ben Mendelsohn, who always gets the assignment.
He's good. He's big. He's bombastic. At one point, I'm like, this is both beautiful and terrible. One of my favorite moments of this movie is when he first shows up. Percival gets a key, and it cuts to the boardroom of the evil company, IOI. And it cuts to the boardroom of the evil company, and one random board member is like, this kid has got the first point. And Ben Mendelsohn's character turns around and just goes, here's the more important question. Who cares? And then there's just a long, pregnant pause. And that is just such horrific writing delivered with the perfect amount of ham. Like, to put that into your movie, to be like, your villain's opinion on the hero is, who cares? That's the level of threat we're dealing with in this movie, is that people are just like, none of this is anything. Who gives one living shit?
Yeah.
No one fucking cares in any regard over anything anywhere in this movie. And to write that line, to be like, that's the relationship between your hero and your villain. But Ben Mendelsohn sells it as one of the funniest and best delivered lines, and I really adore his delivery of that line.
He delivers that line great. He does everything great. Yeah, every time he is live action in this movie, it is a real treat. So shout out to him for like giving some energy and charisma and interest in this film. I was very, very happy he was here.
Yeah. And to go one other positive, I'll get my one other positive out of the way.
Can't wait.
And then we can just go back to dunking. I actually really like the Shining sequence.
The Shining sequence was the best sequence. I don't know if it was because it was not about Ty Sheridan, who's the most boring actor of all time. Because the Shining sequence was mostly about H and then Artemis, and everyone got sent out.
See, I just liked it visually because it was one thing.
Ooh,
because at every other point in this movie, it's like, check out the car chase. King Kong is chasing you. Here's King Kong. Also, that thing is blowing up. Oh, look over there. It's Godzilla. It's the Batmobile. It is such a rapid fire of like someone who's just like, what do you like? Do you like King Kong? Do you like the Batmobile? We got the car from Ghostbusters. This is Ecto 1. Ecto 1, I think it's called. Ecto 2
No,
from the second Ghostbusters. Please
get back in your seat. Please sit down.
Please.
We've got a DeLorean?
So everything felt like that, whereas the Shining sequence felt like it was just like, you know, the film The Shining? We're doing an homage, pastiche, whatever you want to call it. We're doing a segment of that. And the attention to detail was fantastic. The environments looked great. It was sincerely scary and creepy. It was one thing with one twist, and then the characters had to actually interact with it. And it was one of the few times where it felt like there was stakes, where it was just like, it wasn't a bunch of crazy crap blowing up on a highway. It was like a bunch of characters being like, how does this puzzle work? We all know this movie, right? How does this puzzle work?
You're absolutely right. Yeah, they were in one location for a long period of time. You actually got to feel the vibes for it. It all slowed down. They did their own cute little takes. Like they put the creator in the photo of everyone in the ballroom, which was a lovely little like addition of like he built this puzzle around the movie he loved. And they did have to solve it. And like also it was interesting to watch like the avatars interacting with live action because like the scenes from the movie were playing in there. And then you add the zombies. And I actually even liked that puzzle of like you have to ask her to dance.
Yeah.
Was like a nice like, oh, you have to like set her free from the zombies. So yeah, that was a good sequence. You're right. I thought I liked it because it was mostly H and Artemis, but I think you're right that it was also the slowest, least hectic. Like every other sequence is like they open their inventory and they can pull anything out. I can pull out the holy hand grenade. I can pull out a gun. I can pull out a car. People can just come in from portals. Like anything can happen. And this was like not anything could happen, and that made it better.
Yeah.
There were like rules.
It was one thing.
It was one thing with rules of like blood's gonna come out of the elevator, but like because that's what happens in The Shining.
Yeah.
And you can't stop it. You can't just be like, oh, I'll take out my little race car and drive away. And I've got a little gun. I'll shoot the twins. Like it was like, no, you have to live in the rules of The Shining.
Yeah.
So the rules made it better.
Yes, 100%. And I agree with you as well. Like it does focus on the more entertaining characters. So it's a bit of both, but that is a segment where like legitimately there is a moment where I'm like, if this was the whole movie, I actually don't hate this.
I actually think I liked all three puzzles quite a bit.
Okay.
Like I don't think there was like enough clue. There weren't really like clues for the audience to solve them most of the time, which I think was what makes a great movie puzzle.
Right.
You kind of have to give us the information before the puzzle gets solved in order to make a great movie puzzle. But I did like all the puzzles. I mean, I think the first one, I think I would have solved the first one, like my first try, because I definitely would have just accidentally driven a car backwards.
Sure.
You're telling me no one accidentally hit reverse on the start line ever before this moment?
Right. It doesn't quite seem right, but sure.
I just feel like it would happen.
Sure.
So yeah, I think that's a fun puzzle. I think asking her to dance is a fun puzzle. And I like the idea of the last one of like playing video games for the joy of it and not for just finishing.
Yeah.
Not speed running. Like I like video games. I like the world of them. They don't give us any of the information we need to solve these puzzles early.
No.
Which is like just what's annoying. It's just such a movie of like, here's references. Like it's a movie. This movie could be called References.
Yes.
And that's exhausting.
Yeah.
So like when they get to the Atari and it's like, let's start going through Atari games. And I'm like, I don't fucking give a shit.
Yeah.
And even if I liked, like, and then you guys talk about other things that aren't video games. And this isn't just because I don't play video games. I'm like, I don't care that you might get a Millennium Falcon skin inside the Oasis. Like, he was considering giving up his keys for a Millennium Falcon skin inside the Oasis.
And it's like, what?
What are you talking about?
What?
You have that? He lost it. He was wildly impressed.
Be like, of course they have that. You can have anything. It's not real. All of it's made up. You know what extra frustrates me about the Millennium Falcon line when like the CEO is like, if you sign with us and, you know, give us control of the world's internet, I'll get you a Millennium Falcon that you could fly in VR. I own the video game Star Wars Squadrons and a VR headset. I have a VR Millennium Falcon. Like, that is one of the least attainable, least cool things that's even imaginable. And you're going to give up the commerce of planet Earth and our communication system? Like, what are we doing? What are we doing here?
This leads me to, like, more questions I have about the world, I guess. Because it's like, yeah, is this the only game that you're allowed to play? Because, like, yeah, what happened to Atari games? And what happened to other VR games? Or, like, where's everyone's Xboxes and PlayStations if you don't want to wear a freaking headset all day?
Yes.
Like, if you just want to use console games, like everyone mostly does. VR is not that popular. The headsets are heavy. And then there's like just other weird stuff where it's like, yes, everyone's obsessed with pop culture. We all know everything about everything. And I'm like, when did you watch a movie?
Right.
When do any of you watch TV shows or movies? Like, have you just learned this stuff because you're trying to win the game? But they also imply that like everyone in the world loves Star Wars and John Hughes movies and it's all they talk about and there's posters for these things everywhere. And I'm like, none of you have sat down and watched a movie or like discussed what you like about them.
Yeah.
Discuss what you like about them instead of just telling me facts about them.
Yeah.
Oh man, your costume, it's Buckaroo Banzai. That's it.
That's the whole thing.
What do you think it's funny? Do you think it's action-packed? Do you think it's charming? What do you like about that?
Yeah. What does that mean?
Tell me a truth. Tell me that you're like not a computer.
Yeah.
Give me an emotion.
What does any of it mean to any of you? And even stuff just like when that makes no inherent character sense. When it's like, so everyone in the world is into video games, I guess. And it's like, his abusive dad is wearing the suit and is like, I got to get back to Planet Doom later. I'm like, when do you have time to get drunk and abuse? Like, it doesn't...
You have to have other hobbies.
Like, this is what I'm saying is that, like, pieces of shit, which is a character type in these types of movies, need time to be a piece of shit. They can't be a piece of shit and also have memorized John Hughes's catalog. They can't be a piece of shit and know the Flock of Seagulls discography. Like, it doesn't make any logical sense at all.
Yeah,
in any way.
And it doesn't match what we said earlier. Like, you can't be a drunk piece of shit and be like, yeah, I fight battles on Doom and it's a full body exercise. I'm like, no, you don't.
No, you don't.
You absolutely don't.
Yeah.
You absolutely don't do that.
And also because, like, they avoided the fact that, like, in the books, these are, like, school kids. And I guess because they wanted to be like, there's a romance between two adults, ? But I'm like, when the dad like pushes over Wade, I'm like, Wade looks like he could kick the living shit out of you.
Yeah. That's Cyclops.
Yeah.
He's already played Cyclops.
Like, what is happening here? You like an adult fell down who is in way better shape than you.
Yeah, because like then the aunt's like, one more fight between the two of you and I'm kicking you out. I'm like, doesn't he live in the other place anyway?
Yeah, none of this works because you removed all of the relevant book information that makes this work. The one line that killed me from the mom is...
it's his aunt.
His aunt, sorry. He's being raised by his aunt. The one line that kills me from the aunt is that like when the gloves of her abusive boyfriend fail... which I guess Wade fixed off camera, and he blames him for it, and now he's lost his digital currency. He's like, we're ruined. I bet the house on that. She grabs just a pamphlet off the fridge, and she goes, this was our ticket out of here. What? Why did she picked just a random ticket that was like magnetized to the fridge. I'm like, what is that a ticket for? What was the direction here? Was it like you had a ticket out of here? And she's like, oh, okay, so I should literally grab the ticket off the fridge? It's like, no, it's a metaphor?
Oh, I thought
what is
it
happening?
I'm pretty sure I could see what it was. I thought it was a pamphlet for a slightly nicer trailer park.
Okay.
And if they had enough money, they could have moved, and that was their ticket out of there.
Oh.
It was not clear.
Okay.
I think it was a pamphlet for a slightly nicer trailer park.
You know what? That's close to something.
Right? If you're like, we're saving up our money to get out of here.
Yes.
And then the money's gone, and that was our ticket out of here.
In that scenario, you would think the line would be like, we could have lived here.
It's not a great line.
To hold up a piece of paper and go, this is our ticket out of here, and we've lost it. And then but it's never in focus and quietly put it away. I'm like.
And it's also not a world with physical tickets. Like, it would definitely be digital.
And I'm just like, Spielberg?
You're better than this.
You didn't notice you didn't have an insert shot of the ticket, or you didn't tell us what the ticket was, or no one in the prop department did up what this should look like, and no one did a second pass of the line, and then the actor delivers it flat, where it's just this was supposed to be our ticket out of here.
Well, to be fair to the actress, it doesn't make any sense. And she had such a smart...
Yeah.
She had such a small role that I doubt she, with 3 lines, was willing to go up to Spielberg and be like, this doesn't really make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Spielberg, could you, I don't want to look dumb. And that's why she didn't say this. I don't get what's happening in this scene.
I get that if Spielberg doesn't give you direction, you probably don't go up and ask him specifically for direction. I can understand that.
Yeah. So the reason I had to point out that it was his aunt and not his mom is because of my favorite line in this movie, which is when Wade is talking to Ben Mendelsohn's character, and with very slight emotion, he is declining his offer and says, You think I'd help you? You killed my mom's sister. Your aunt. We have a word for this.
Yeah.
We have a word for mom's sister.
Yeah.
And it's aunt. Was this script written in another language and translated or something? I don't. You killed my mom's sister?
And what's wild is that I didn't know that woman was not his mom. And maybe that's why they phrased it like this, but it made it worse because legitimately when he said that, I was like, did they kill someone else off screen? Because I thought they killed his mom. And there was a deleted scene where her sister shows up and gets shot or something.
Also died in the explosion. She lived in the trailer below.
You killed my mom's sister. That is some shit that Data on Star Trek would say because he can't use contractions or some shit.
Yeah.
Or it was there is a murder of my mother's sister, and it's okay, Data, yeah, there's someone who murdered your aunt. We could just say that.
I wasn't sure if it was aunt or aunt, so I said
So
mother's
I said
sister.
mother's sister.
Yeah.
Mother's sister.
It was the chunkiest line.
Oh,
Oh man, I can't even get a spoon in that. It's so chunky.
Imagine a Spider-Man movie and Peter Parker comes home and is if it isn't my mother's sister, May. There's a word, you fuck.
My dad's brother Ben.
No,
Oh,
not my dad's brother Ben.
Not dad's brother Ben. You killed him.
Or one of them, I presume, would be an in-law in that scenario. But you know what we mean. My God.
Oh man.
My mother. Did no one do a second pass of this script?
They didn't, because if they did, it would be at least some show and not all tell. The first 20 minutes of this movie is just an monologue over top of scenes. It's just the most boring actor of all time being like, let me tell you about the Oasis. In the Oasis, we play games and we get coins and we're looking for 3 keys. Now, sometimes you have to play the race with the King Kong, and that's my friend H. And H he's a big guy. He's my best friend. I'm Percival. I'm really good, even though everyone else is also dedicated to this game. If there's a loyalty center, we're not going to mention that till the end, even though it's the most interesting part of this movie. It's so dead boring.
It's all dead boring exposition. It is no attempt to, and this doesn't even get into the details of the book, of any adaptation. The biggest challenge is always, how do we translate a bunch of information that was once given by an omnipotent narrator, and now we need to put it on a film, which means that someone either needs to say clunky exposition as a line, or we need to have narration, or we need to have an environmental way to tell it. And those are your 3 options. And they looked at this book and said, yes, let's do all 3 simultaneously forever and never make any effort to edit it down. It is the most information in the most boring way at all times.
Yes, because we also haven't mentioned that this movie is 2 hours and 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And God.
Here's the other thing I find frustrating about the narration of Wade giving us all this information is that it doesn't shut up for 40 minutes. For the first 40 minutes of the movie, it's here's what this is, and then here's this place, and now I'm going to the archive. The archive is a place where they have digital recreations of all of the memories of Hallowell. Hallowell had diaries, and then they also used cameras in order to scan his life, and then using the cameras and sometimes baby monitors and other things, they put together 3D representations where it is that I can view all of the... And I'm like, you're watching a YouTube video. Why is this taking forever? But they didn't even tie in all this narration because for 40 minutes, he doesn't shut up and he tells us how everything works. And then once we know how things work, the narration stops. There's no, there is no Scrubs Wonder Years, I've come to a conclusion and now I'm emotionally talking to the audience about it. It is just... all the narration is just and here's what this is. It's a car that I purchased. You might remember it from the film Back to the Future. And then as soon as it's not necessary, there's no reason for the narration to exist. So it just stops for, I'm going to say the last 2/3 or last half of the movie. There's just no narration. And then the first half, it never stops. So it's just it only exists when they need it. They didn't even come up with a reason.
Yeah, it wasn't a constant oh man, I don't know if Artemis likes me or not. Or once we get going.
Yeah.
Once we actually have set the world up, they're yeah, we were just being lazy.
Yeah.
We weren't going to work that into the film.
They didn't even work it in the lazy way. There was no closing a book at the end and be that was the Game of Thrones. There was no, and that's how we all were, Little Women. There was no even lazy. The whole story was you hearing me write the book.
No, there wasn't even and this was actually a video game of my life, the way that I played the video game of Hallowell's life.
Yes.
Nothing like that. Nothing.
The laziest effort was still too much effort. Fascinating stuff.
Oh, fascinating stuff. I am fascinated. Okay, here's another thing. Fuck, this was so ridiculous. I don't know if this is in the book. The suits they wear when they're in VR that let you feel like you've been shot by a bullet or kicked in the nuts. Who the hell is buying this? Do you want to feel to the point where Ben Mendelsohn's nuts are engorged and red when he gets hit in the balls and he is limping out of his pod? And I'm what settings have not been turned off on these fucking suits?
Yeah.
You can feel yourself get shot?
By what advantage is that?
Why is that enjoyable?
And I get that, there would be these suits being sold for sex purposes.
When it gets to the sex part, I'm a feeling of sexual touch is so much different than you've been hit by a bullet.
Yeah. Yeah. Why would you want to feel getting hit by a bullet?
Why would you want to feel getting hit by a bullet?
Getting kicked in the nuts.
Yeah, and then also the sex part was just wildly uncomfortable.
Yes.
Watching his, crotch glow? I don't want to see this.
I've never seen someone have a solo sex scene in a movie.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense.
But, it wasn't uncomfortable in a way that the movie was, saying anything about it.
No. Well, because the movie doesn't have anything to say about anything.
No, but, there is a movie that could say that. Isn't this sad?
Yes, Demolition Man.
Yes,
legitimately has this scene.
And Demolition Man is not that great a movie.
It's pretty fun.
It's fun.
It's not deep.
No, it's not an indie art film about how video games are stealing our souls.
But at least in that scene in Demolition Man, there was someone who sat down who said, what is the point of this scene? And they found it. The point was that Stallone's character didn't like how sterilized the world had just become and found it upsetting. And there was a character growth, an arc, and a purpose. And this movie doesn't even have the depth of Demolition Man.
That's not a great look.
That's not a great look.
Not a great look, man.
Wow. Yeah, the lack of depth and a criminal underuse of Simon Pegg.
Why is he even this movie's 2 hours and 20 minutes, and it feels like 5 characters have had millions of scenes cut.
Yeah.
It feels like Simon Pegg has a ton of scenes cut. I assume there are more scenes with his friends, but they never speak, at least until they're introduced as real people.
Uh-huh.
They might as well not exist. Yeah, for such a long movie, it's one of those ones where you're I can feel that this was 3 hours originally. I'm glad it's only 220, but like such a bloated script. And yeah, a criminal underuse of Simon Pegg, who we love.
Who we love and who can do better than this.
Yeah, a movie that's so bad he doesn't get a single laugh.
Yes. Yeah.
That's insane.
And to not let him be funny at all. And at the end, he almost works because they let him be warm, which is something Simon Pegg is and can sell.
The emotion on his face so quickly when Wade is like, you were the key. He like regretted losing your friendship. And I'm like, that's not what this movie's been about in any way, shape, or form. But Simon Pegg sold the shit out of it in this like 30 seconds of performance he was given to actually act.
Yeah. He sold the quiet story, and he should have had more opportunities to shine. He should have been allowed to be funny. They shouldn't have put him in a wig that is straight up a crime. I get it. It's like he's playing him slightly younger in this scene, and it's like, okay, just put the year on the screen. I don't fucking care.
At least they didn't give him the DH face. I'll take the wig. I'll take the wig over the DH face. Remember when they just put a hat on Gary Goldman?
Oldman. Yeah. Goldman is a very different man who I think also could be a good Commissioner Gordon. But it was, yes, I agree that like I'll take it over the de-aging. But also I saw someone, I'm quoting someone online. I can't remember who it was who I saw post this, but it was a great description where it was like, wigs in movies really make it seem like someone in the hair department threw a wig and the actor had to jump headfirst into it. And that is how Simon Pegg's wig looks. Where it's like, I don't understand what is going on in films that they cannot get a single person who knows how to apply a wig properly. Because it really does. It was just such a good description. They throw the wig and actors have to jump headfirst into it right before the scene starts.
That is so wildly accurate. And it's so crazy that like we have come so far in so many ways in film and costume and technology. And you're absolutely right that wigs almost across the board still look bad. But not always. There are people who do great wig work. And I don't know why they're only on a few movies or we don't use them all the time. Or maybe wigging is like a lost art that we are just not putting the money into that it deserves. But it's always noticeable when it's a bad wig.
Yeah, I think anyone who knows how to do a wig properly makes better money in the drag world and doesn't go into film and television. I honest to God think that is part of what's happening, is that if you know how to do good wigs, you're not slumming it in film and television.
I will agree with that is a very good possibility. I would also throw in, I bet they assume that the hair and makeup people just know how to do wigs instead of being like, we hired a wig person.
Yes, 100%.
The person who does like Wade's hair, which is just normal human hair, was also in charge of Simon Pegg's hair, even though it's a wig.
Yeah.
And that person might have been like, I guess you just glue it down. I don't know. I'm a stylist.
Yeah, just throw a wig in the air and make them jump headfirst into it.
Yeah, as you're jumping.
Yeah, jump on in, Simon Pegg.
My throwing's not great, so your jump's going to have to be really good.
And Simon Pegg is a goddamn trooper who did his fucking best at every turn.
He might have done his own wig work.
He might have, frankly. Like,
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, I'm willing to bet, like, on Spaced, it's like him, Edgar, and Nick probably did a lot of their own shit from time to time, so I wouldn't be surprised if he knows his way around a wig a little bit better than some of the people on this film. But yeah, he's a better talent and deserved more, I think.
I've got two quick positives.
Lay it on me.
I will give you a quick positive. One is so fast, but it is when Wade gets kidnapped by that guy.
Okay.
And the guy, like, it's such a quick scene. Wade sits down, and then the guy, like, just appears behind his chair, and his head just shoots up, and it was so surprising, and it was so dumb and silly that I was like, I actually really love this. I wish the movie was more like this.
That was pretty cool. I'll take that. That was pretty cool.
A really cool, fun scene. And,
I'm on it with that.
I kind of hate this as a positive, but TJ Miller actually did a really great job.
Oh, yeah.
Because this guy sucks in real life.
Yeah, I agree. He did
a really good job of being funny in the game, and no one else managed that.
He's a trash man, and he is maybe the only entertaining person in this, which I agree. It hurts to say.
It does hurt, because Ben Mendelsohn isn't in the game very often. He is actually mostly live action.
Yeah, I'm very happy TJ is not in the movie in any physical capacity.
Just a voice, so that's a little bit easier to parse. But yeah, his voice acting in the game is easily the most entertaining, and it's like, fuck.
Yeah, I was just not going to mention it because he's a trash man. But you're right, though. It is actually pretty
It's
good.
like it's a weird thing when it's like he got hired and he wasn't trash. Like I don't like when people work with trash people once we know they suck.
Yeah.
But but I'm so forgiving of like at least the rest of the crew and actors when it's like this was not a canceled man at the time.
Right. I understand that. Yeah. So yeah, okay. I can also get behind that. Yeah.
These are my feelings and opinions.
So those are not too bad in terms of two little positives. I think I have a tough time coming up with any other than the Shining section and Ben Mendelsohn as well as the other one.
Yeah. I think my like final beat perhaps will be a section that I thought was actually like nice and then just like sucked. And it's when Ben Mendelsohn, like in live action, it's the very end of the movie, and he gets to the trailer park neighborhood. Mm-hmm. And he gets out of his car and he gets warned by one of the neighbors, like, you're going to want to get out of here. Because Ben Mendelsohn blew up this trailer park earlier in the movie.
Yeah.
He killed multiple people who lived here.
Yeah.
And he's got a gun and he's trying to kill Wade. And then the whole neighborhood comes out. And they're like, we're going to kill you, Ben Mendelsohn. And they're all mad. And I'm like, oh, he's fucked. The neighborhood's coming together to support Wade, their friend. And then Ben Mendelsohn holds up a single handgun and hundreds of them just move out of his way. Just one dude. And I know handguns are scary, but this is set in America, so I don't know where all your guns went.
Yeah.
What happened?
The idea that like everything in America has gotten really bad, but they've solved guns.
Yeah, guns and crime are gone.
Gone.
Like people are VRing so much.
Yes.
I think people are robbing each other in VR probably. Like you kill a guy, you take their coins.
I guess, but
like,
everyone, because they're running, fighting, and doing deep squats, digital surfing, everyone is jacked. And like all of you should be able to take Ben Mendelsohn, one of you has to have a gun.
One of you has to have a gun. One of you has to like be able to get behind him. There's hundreds of you.
Yes.
And he's pointing the gun straight up.
Yeah.
Punch him in the face.
Yeah.
Punch him in the back of the head.
And he's a visible dweeb.
Throw a rock at him.
Yes.
You have stuff.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's this heartwarming, uplifting scene of like, we're all getting behind the guy from our neighbor. Oh no, never mind. Back away, everybody.
Yeah.
And they just let him open up the doors and he's absolutely about to shoot Wade.
Yes.
If Wade wasn't currently like, the game's over, I've defeated it, Wade would have been shot in the head.
Hundreds of people are about to watch a known terrorist gangland execute a child. And they are just like,
Not even
we can't.
shouting.
Yeah.
No one's like, call the cops, who aren't IOI, which I find it at the very end of this movie, that those are two separate identities.
Sure. Yeah. That it's not like a RoboCop OCP, like they own the police type of a thing.
Yeah, no, because the guy gets arrested. So I'm like, call the cops, yell something, throw a flashbang, own a gun. I'm not usually pro-gun ownership, but I know you have them.
Yeah.
I know you have a gun.
You can't set a movie in America and have the final scene be like, no one has gun. No one has gun.
Unless that's like what happened in America.
That has to be the whole point
like,
of the movie.
This is like Superman 4. He took all the guns.
Yeah.
5 or whatever Superman movie where he took the guns.
Yeah. No one has
gun.
gun.
This is the aftermath. No one has gun.
No one has gun.
You liars.
Get the fuck out of here. No one has gun.
Has gun.
Very stupid.
Very stupid.
So very stupid that no one has gun. Also, just like just a couple little dumb little things to rapid fire off that piss me off about this movie. Everyone VRs in front of open windows because they couldn't figure out how else to show us that people were VRing.
Yes, one woman is like on a stripper pole
in front of an open window, and it's like, what are we doing? What are we doing here?
I know you want a cool one shot of how everyone's doing VR, but no.
You've got to give some thought to how this works.
Yeah.
As well.
Because like they clearly don't need the sun.
No
one cares about getting any sun on their face.
No one cares one bit. And when it cuts to like the big final battle where like everyone is everything at all the time, and it's just like they show like all the real people in the street are doing like karate kicks as they fight for Parzival at the big battle, and it's like, why were they in the street? Like, where are they going? How are they not dead? Like, there's someone like in the street crawling on all fours because their digital avatar is King Kong. And it's like, you're in the street though.
Yeah, because they showed everyone, like, this was the only time they really showed, like, people on their way somewhere having AR on.
Yeah.
Or VR on. And I was like, what do you, like, you're going to the coffee shop and you're playing a game? But, like, you would run into traffic. You would hit a wall.
And I think
in real life,
the
like
visors
you would trip.
I think the visors are ones where it's like it's supposed to be semi-transparent or stuff, but it's like if the whole point of this is like people aren't meeting real people anymore, why are 5 friends getting together for coffee and then gaming there?
Yeah, it didn't make any sense, and I disagree that the visors must be transparent, or you could not have inceptioned Ben Mendelsohn.
Oh, yeah.
They would have to be completely, you are in this world.
Yes.
Maybe he's got a special one because it's way more expensive.
Sure.
Also, I feel like he should have been able to feel his visor was still on.
Yeah, very
I
dumb.
didn't feel like that was part of the game.
Yeah.
That, I don't even feel like I'm wearing a visor. It's not it.
Mm-hmm.
You're not inceptioning that man.
No.
Very dumb.
And I think the last dumb thing is that that other people in the digital world are impressed by stuff.
Oh, kill me. Jesus.
The dance sequence, they have this scene at a dance club, and Parzival is like, I'm going to change the music here, which I guess everyone else hears, which why would they? Why do you have the master control? And you're like, I know dance moves from Saturday Night Fever. And it cuts to like the cast of Street Fighter and Overwatch, who are all real people somewhere in the world, are like, what? How's he dancing? And it's like, because all of you can.
You're all avatars dancing in a fictional fantasy world.
One of you is RoboCop. Why are you impressed by this child? Nothing makes any sense.
Like, I don't game, but I've watched like The Sims and everything and like other games where you meet up in groups, and it's like, it's never impressive.
No.
You're always like, yeah, that guy just did a little dance.
Yeah.
Who cares?
None of it means, and maybe some of them are more expensive or rarer to find or whatever, but it's not like everyone here seems to be digitally rich.
Yeah.
Like a dude who is RoboCop is flossing, and they're like, "But you know what Saturday Night Fever is?"
That guy's so cool. Yeah, the movie really wants you to think Parzival's the coolest guy ever because he knows the most references.
Yeah, but everyone else also is equally cool.
Yeah.
Where it's like you've got a DeLorean. It's like everyone has something.
All have a. There's a
Batmobile. Like
there's not one DeLorean.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And like the other thing that's weird is when like characters are scared of other characters. Mm. Like when TJ Miller's character like goes up to the 3 ladies in the booth and like they're all digital, they're all avatars, and he's like, "Get out!" and they run away in fear. And I'm like, they have guns and are just as strong as you. Like physical size doesn't matter in a video game. That's just your skin.
I think one of them was Chun-Li from Street Fighter.
One of them was Harley.
Yeah.
One of them was Harley Quinn.
So I'm like, why are you afraid of him?
She should have hit you with a mallet.
Yeah. None of this is, or this is a zone where you can't even fight anyway, which is another thing that could happen. Like this is just a holding area. This is just a lobby.
Or something needed to pop up like, I'm a level 10,000.
Yes.
I can kill you no problem. And they're like level hundreds or something. But there's nothing indicating anyone's status, how much money they have, if they have a lot of weapons. Like it's very impressive that he hasn't died in 10 years. Unless you can see that at a glance, no one should be scared of you.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And there are plenty of ways that you could do that. Yes. A KD ratio of like 800,000 to 0. And it's like, what? How did he? So there's ways to do it, but it's like why is anyone impressed by anyone in any circumstance?
It's wildly boring.
None of it's anything.
None of it is anything.
Well, let's go in for the close.
Nothing, everywhere, all at once.
Yes. Every reference all of the time consistently is another name for this movie. Let's go in for the close. Let's ask the final question of what would you change? So now that we've discussed everything, what would you change about this if you could change anything? Before we do ask that final question, we will remind you, as we do every week, please rate, review, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Podcasts, Spotify, Podcast Addict, wherever you might get your podcasts. It helps us move up the charts. It helps us find new listeners. And it is a kind and free way to support the podcasts that you love, like us. My big recommendation, if you have like literally 2 minutes of your day, pick like 3 of your favorite podcasts. I hope we're one of them. If not, honestly, I don't even give a shit. Pick 3 of your favorite podcasts, open up the thing, and I know you've been putting it off and like we keep forgetting, and I've done this type of shit before. Rate and review your 3 favorite podcasts, whatever they might be. Even if it's just as simple as like, love this, this is awesome, thanks. Send that out to the world. It really does make a difference to podcasts you listen to, and it's a very important thing. It's how the algorithm knows people likes us and how it recommends us to new people as well.
Yeah, it really does help us out. And honestly, you feel nice. Like you feel like you've sent a nice thing out into the world, and you have. You've done a service to the people you like, provide a service that you enjoy, but you'll also be like, I'm a good person.
Yeah.
You also get a little reward. You're going to get a fun little warm feeling in your chest of like, I did it.
Yeah.
I've been meaning to put that off. I've been putting that off, and I left that 5-star review. Now everyone knows these people rule.
I recently felt warm and nice because I gave a 5-star review to a podcast that I really like and listen to because I realized I hadn't done it on Spotify.
Yeah.
I used to listen to them back when I was using Podcast Addict. I use Spotify a lot lately. And I was like, I noticed I don't have a star review for you here. So I gave them 5 stars and I was like, hell yeah, enjoy that, the besties. So like, do it for the podcast you love.
Yeah, and also if you are on Spotify right now, it is wildly easy to leave that 5-star review on Spotify. Spotify is the easiest one.
They do make it very simple and clean.
Boom, one click.
And as well, if you do want to support the podcast monetarily and get cool bonuses, you can do it over on Patreon, which is a monthly subscription service. You can subscribe at whatever level is in your budget, get plenty of cool bonuses. Even if you have $1, you can chip in. That helps support the network. That gets you our webcomic early. If you have $3, you can get this podcast early and ad-free. Get rid of those pesky ads. Get the episode a little bit early. And at the $10 hero level, you get a bonus episode of this podcast every single month.
Yeah, this month on the pod, we did Tron, continuing with movies about playing video games. A very fun episode that is available at the $10 level. We also cover things that we've never covered on the regular podcast. So there's like 80, 90 episodes available, and you get immediate access to all of them. It is not just on a go-forward basis. And at the $10 level, you also get access to the lower level. So you get the early ad-free episodes too.
It's really good stuff. Plenty of options depending on what your budget is. You can even sign up for a year in advance, in which case you get 1 month free. There's lots of different options. Have a look around. See what kind of bonuses you would like. Decide what's in your budget. Check it out at patreon.com/FromSuperheroes. That is patreon.com/FromSuperheroes.
And thank you to all our current patrons. We love you all.
Thank you very much. And now let's go in for the close. Let's ask the final question of what would you change? Diana, what would you change?
My changes are wildly basic because this feels like a kind of like unsavable movie. There's so much wrong with it. So my changes are, I've just written them down like point blank. More real world stuff. Bring up the loyalty center sooner because that is the most terrifying aspect of this film, and it's wildly interesting. And they get mentioned in passing like an hour in, and then once she's actually in one, I'm like, this is horrific, and this is what this movie should be built around. So like these loyalty centers need to be brought up way sooner as like an actual real life stake, because there's no real world stakes in this movie. Even after his aunt gets blown up, I'm not really worried about anything. Oh, sorry, his mom's sister.
His mom's sister, I believe.
Mom's sister is killed.
Yep.
I'm still not worried about like real life stakes until like she gets sent into the loyalty center. So they get brought up way earlier. Stop making pop culture references for the love of God and be 90 minutes long. So those are my like producer notes instead of my Diana changes it herself notes. I'm like just mad at Steven Spielberg. I'm not releasing this movie until he makes these changes. So that's it for me. Loyalty centers, more real world stuff, 90 minutes. Get rid of these fucking references. Andrew, what would you change?
I love it. I'm on board for all of that. I do agree that the loyalty center is the scariest and like grittiest real world thing that they have in this movie.
Yeah, when she wakes up and she can't take off like the helmet.
Yeah.
That's terrifying.
Yep. So I agree with that. I would say I have two kind of changes. I just want it to be grittier and nastier. Like even the trailer stacks that they live in are pretty nice and neat. And like I'm like, I want it to be like staph infection rusted. Like I want this to be a like this place sucks. I don't want it to be like I have a nice neighbor who like waters her plants every day and like feeds the community tomato. Like this place should suck. Life should suck.
Yeah, there's like a farmer's market and it was sunny every time we saw it. It was never like raining or dingy or like people are cold.
It should look like Blade Runner. Like this should be kind of like future punk kind of dystopian. So that's my simple like aesthetic change. You know, simple might be an oversimplification to use the same word twice, but that's my aesthetic change. And then my other like big picture change is that each act should have one set piece similar to the Shining thing.
Ooh, I love
that is a singular reference to a singular moment or thing. Like the first act race sequence. So each key, there's one key in each act that's the big set piece. The key in act 1, it's like, I don't know what you want it to be. It's a racing movie. Days of Thunder, Fast and Furious, whatever you legally have the rights to.
Speed Racer.
Speed Racer. Whatever that one property. Actually, I saw Speed Racer's car in this movie. So they have Speed Racer. That's the reference. Whether it's the show or the movie, whatever it is, that takes place in Speed Racer. That is the scene. That is the homage. That is the pastiche. That's what we're doing. The third act takes place on like Planet Doom. It's the fight planet with lots of fight. And we have like a D&D spell or whatever. And there's kind of a thing. Where is this? What is this? You obviously own King Kong. That third act, Skull Island. They put a spell around Skull Island and that's where the battle is. Pick one thing for each key and that's the fucking thing.
That would have been so much better. If The Shining wasn't in here, I'm not sure I could picture it and think it was all that good, but you're right. The Shining section was so much better and so focused and so interesting that we actually like explored something pop culture-y.
Yeah.
And then like a big moment that would make it great of like what was great about that Speed Racer thing or Fast and the Furious race or
Death
whatever
Race, French
do.
Connection, whatever it is that you've got.
You know, and what's so good about Kong Skull Island. Yeah, this would be so much more interesting and so much more focused. Yes, love this change.
And you can still drop a few, like control the number, but a few other things to be like, it's Kong Skull Island. They have control of Kong, and I now have control of the Iron Giant. And then it's like, it's Mechagodzilla. And I'm like, okay, I guess they have Mechagodzilla. None of this is anything or means anything. But if it was Skull Island and that was where Kong was, now it's a thing. So you can still add more references, but just at a more controlled pace in an homage to one thing that shows love and attention and detail and regard to the thing as well.
Yeah, it's like make me feel like you love pop culture, not that you're just throwing references at me and hoping I love that.
Yes.
Don't.
Yeah. It very much reminds me of, there was an episode of, just to last thought to clue it up on, but like there was an episode of Community, which Community did a really good job of these homage episodes in the style of. But there's an episode where they're told that they were in an insane asylum and Greendale wasn't real. And it cuts to this like fake flash of all of them in straitjackets. And Abed in a straitjacket is just going like, let's do a bottle episode. It's a Law and Order episode, paintball episode, action movie, Star Wars. And then like that is what this movie feels like, of like Abed yelling the references, but we never get to see the episode where they lovingly craft what it is that is enjoyed about that style. So this feels like Abed just yelling references in a straitjacket of an insane asylum.
Yeah, that's a pretty good description of Ready Player One.
Yeah.
You did it.
I think we did it.
We
Boom.
fixed it.
We fixed it.
We made it more enjoyable at the very least.
I think, yeah, what we're describing is a movie. What we're describing now we've made it a movie.
Excellent.
Well, that is going to do it for us this week, talking about Ready Player One, our favorite film. And we will be back next week. Next week on the podcast, we are going to be talking about season 2 for The Wheel of Time. I believe we'll be talking about up to episode 5, if I've done the math correctly, of what will be out at the time.
I believe so. I'm not sure. Amazon Prime has been a little stingy on the details of how many episodes will be released every week.
Amazon Prime is bebopping and scatting as to how many will be released.
Sometimes it's 3, sometimes it's 2, sometimes it's 1. How many episodes you going to get?
So we will be talking about some episodes of season 2 of The Wheel of Time next week on the podcast. In the meantime, if you want to get a hold of us, you can find me on Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky. I am at Ivimey, Ivimey.
You can find me on Tumblr. I'm at Words of Diana.
And you can find us most places at From Superheroes, and you can visit our website, fromsuperheroes.com, to check out all of our podcasts, our webcomic, and everything we have to offer. And we'll talk to y'all next week.
Bye.